Hey everybody, Dominic here from CMAC with another tutorial. This time I'm going to be going over how to download and install DaVinci Resolve and a brief overview of the program. If you're unfamiliar with DaVinci Resolve, it's a program that started out as only a color correction and grading tool that evolved into a editing and compositing tool as well. It's completely free for PC, Mac, and Linux systems. So let's get started. All you need to do is go ahead and launch your internet browser. In this case, I've already done so, and look up DaVinci Resolve, and your Google search should bring you to this website, and right on the main page is the download button, and you'll see two different options: DaVinci Resolve and Studio. Studio is the pro version. It just has some extra plugins that you don't necessarily need, so just go ahead and get the free version. And I'm going to click on Windows. Go ahead and click on your respective operating system. It's going to ask for your information, such as name, email address, etc. Go ahead and fill out that information, and once you're done, click register and download. You're going to download a zip folder. Once it's done downloading, go ahead and open it. When you open the zip folder, you'll see the installation program. Go ahead and just double click on it. It's going to do its thing. Should only take a couple seconds. You're going to see a series of permission windows. Go ahead and click yes, continue to continue the installation. This window is just showing you everything that it's going to install for you. You can go ahead and leave everything checked. I'm going to hit install. This should only take either a couple seconds to a couple minutes. This setup window will appear. Click on next, click accept terms of the agreement, hit next. In this window, you'll be able to determine the installation location. By default, it might say your C drive or your D drive. In this case, for me, it says C. If you want to change it, go ahead and click on the change button. And I can hit the drop down menu and I can check off any other hard drive that I have. But in this case, I'm going to leave it on the C drive and hit on next. Click install. All right, once it's done, click finish. Hit OK. Now go ahead and launch DaVinci Resolve. You might see a shortcut on your desktop, or go to your start menu, find Blackmagic Design, since that is the name of the company that makes it, and launch Resolve. Okay, so once you launch DaVinci Resolve, you're going to get this opening window that's going to give you the option to create a new project. In this case, you'll see I've already had some pre-existing projects. For this tutorial, I'm just going to click new. I do want to mention right before you start a new project that DaVinci Resolve has a different way of saving project files. It saves them as what we call libraries, similar to Final Cut Pro, unlike Premiere where it's individual project files. And we'll attach a video link in the description below on how and where DaVinci saves these files. And this is where you can type in the name of your project. I'm just going to leave it as is, hit create. And now let's take a quick look at the user interface of DaVinci Resolve. If you edited in either Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro, this should look somewhat familiar to you since it is a blend of the two programs, at least visually. Let's take a look here at the bottom. You'll have your media. This is where you'll do your main importing. You can also do that here in the Edit tab. You'll have Fusion, Color for all your color correction and grading. Fairlight is just DaVinci's audio editing workspace, and Deliver is where you'll be able to export your project. The main workspace you really need to worry about is just Edit and Deliver, in my opinion, unless you're going to do some special fine-tuning of audio or even color grading. So let's just go ahead and take a look at editing. In your top left-hand panel, this is where you'll be able to import clips. If I were to just right-click and import media, I can select a clip. DaVinci might tell you that the frame rate of the video is different from your timeline settings. If you want it to match, then just hit change. Now here you go. Here's the first clip. I can click and drag right here onto my timeline, which is here at the bottom. And this is on the top. This is the preview monitor. So it's going to show anything reflective of this red cursor line here on the timeline. So I can hit play. I can hit stop. And right below it are the editing tools, so cursor or the blade tool. I can go ahead and cut anywhere on my timeline. I can just select certain parts and just hit delete. I can also zoom in here on the right. I can zoom in, I can zoom out on the timeline to make those really fine-tuning edits. Here on the top right are your effects controls. So if I want to, let's say, edit a specific clip, I can just go to video. So let's say I go to transform, I can zoom in on the clip, I can zoom out, I can change its position, rotate it, and there's plenty more to mess around with. So just make sure to experiment with all these different controls to see what you can do. Same thing with audio. Here in the bottom left is your effects list. So I can get video transitions, so I can do cross dissolves, I can add titles. So if I want just a standard text, I can just bring it on there. And then now it shows up here in the window. And just like with the video, here in the effects controls, I can change the name of the title. I can do that here in this main window, or I can select here on the screen and change the name. And then if you go down, you can change the font, the color, the size, etc. Here in the bottom right, you'll see an audio fader. So just like an audio board, you can just bring up the audio respectively on each channel, or the main for everything. And then you'll see in different sections like A1, A2, M1. These A tracks are respective to what's here on the timeline. So I only have one audio track, so that's A1. Let's say I had A2 and 3 as well, but I only wanted A1 to be higher and lower the other ones. I can come here and just bring up A1 and then bring down 2 and 3 respectively. I can also go here, zoom in on the timeline, and if there was any audio, this clip doesn't have any audio, but if there was, I can go in and do some additional tweaking there. If I want to bring up everything as a whole, I just go to main, bring it up, and then bring it back down. So this is just a brief overview of the editing interface. We will be adding other video links in the description below that cover in more detail how to use DaVinci Resolve, so be sure to check those out. Now let's say if I was done with my edits and I'm ready to export, I'm going to click on Deliver. Here in this window, you'll see some presets. If you want to pick a specific preset, you'll see the options change. I generally stick with custom, so I can just give my project a specific file name. I can change the save destination, so I just click on Browse, and I can say Desktop. Hit save. It'll tell you the specific location. Video settings, you can pick either MP4 or QuickTime or anything else that you need to look at. I generally stick to just MP4. For our playback services, we definitely need to have it as an H.264 codec, so just leave it as that. Change resolution and frame rate. Everything else looks good, so I'm just gonna add to render queue. This is telling me that there's already a name with that file. I can just hit replace or rename this current project, but I'm just gonna hit replace. And now you're going to hit start render. Rendering in this case means the same thing as exporting. And now it tells you how long is the exporting time and what's the percentage of the current export. So that does it for this tutorial on how to install DaVinci Resolve and a brief overview of the program. As I mentioned, I definitely recommend going on YouTube and looking at other clips from other producers on how to do video editing in DaVinci Resolve, from a brief overview down to the specific needs. And that does it for this video tutorial on DaVinci Resolve on how to download and install the program. You can check out this video along with other tutorials via our social media platforms at CMAC TV on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.